Good morning, the joy of love, waving a shout out. If you're watching on the camera there, you see me engrossed in my phone, just picking up a few messages that have come in, and lovely to receive your kind texts and emails, voice messages and phone calls and letters, of course, here on Radio Maria Ireland. This is the Chatechesis moment here, just for 45 minutes until 12 o'clock. And very nice to have your company here. Thanks to Nuria looking after the visual element of things, and Eva's on the mixing desk too. And I see the snow is falling outside the window. So it's that time of year, of course, nice and nippy. As I was coming in this morning, it was nice to see the snow on the Dublin mountains. Quite cold here overnight. I don't suppose it's going to shtick, though, not on this occasion, I'd say. I think it's just above freezing, so it's not likely to make an impact. Please God, anyway. And I hope wherever you are that you're safe and warm, and that you have enough heat to mind you and keep you well, and that you're snuggled in listening to Radio Maria and enjoying the programming here. Just got a lovely voice message. I'm going to take Shane. I won't be happy with me playing this into the microphone here. But thanks to Maura Vic Aragusa, Maura Ferguson, who lives near us here, who enjoys the Beagání in Gaelga and sent us in our first, I might say, Maura, you get credit for being the first bilingual little jingle here in greeting. It's just a short little one that I play for you, and you'll get a little bit of Irish and a little bit of English coming at you now here as well.
Mabhuichas a goáil le fern Radio Maria agus é sin tathir Eamonn as stáisiú bra a chur fáil doing go léir. I'd like to thank Father Eamonn and the staff of Radio Maria for providing us with a wonderful station. Shane Rowan Aberdeen tagum na éisteach níos miliki agus níos cuarmi le cuidan na clárcha agus leis na padcha. My New Year's resolution is to listen more often and more carefully to some of the programs and the prayers. Buinem Anna Hannah as Rind Gaelga close to Wanga home and radio. I enjoy listening to a little bit of Irish now and then on the programs. Banachte or of Galer, God bless you all.
Very good, lovely message there from Maura. Thanks a million for that, Maura. The words that worry me there, Níos Cuairmí. She'll be listening a little bit more carefully, so I hope not finding too much fault with Macud Gaelga. I met Maura there lately and was just chatting with her, and delighted to get that support in the Irish department. I can manage so much, but I need a lot of work to bring me up to speed and to make it a bit more flourishing. And it's certainly my hope and ambition that we might have a little bit in the way of programming Trí Gaeilge as we move forward as well. Something tapping into the deep and rich spirituality and heritage that is ours here in Ireland, and indeed drawing from the tremendous faith tradition of our people and our heritage. So looking forward to that as well. So thanks, William. Maura, always nice to get these little voice messages. You might like to send in a similar voice message. Mother will Beagání Gaelga good freshen. Feel free to make it a bilingual one. Maybe you have another language altogether. we could experiment in the idea of altogether different European languages and have a little jingle. Actually, wouldn't it be nice? This is just a thought, really, to get a little one in half German, half English, maybe like that, brief, or half Spanish, half. We have enough Spaniards in the building here to certainly do that. Just a nice little thought. It adds a little international flavour to Radio Maria. Actually, a big shout out to Johnny O'Connor. Johnny is in, what's the island? I forgot. I have to look up the email. It's a little island off the south coast of Nigeria. Johnny is from Kinsale, I think it is. And maybe, let's see, I think I put it into the feedback group here. But he's working in Nigeria. And let me just look it up here. And sent us a lovely message last night, an email last night, that he enjoys listening in, especially late at night when he joins in for the prayers there as well. Oh, no, I know what happened there. I had started sending or transferring the email but it didn't make it across. So let me see now if I can find it, because he gave me a name of a lady in Kenmare to give a shout out to and a hello to as well. And let me see if you're there, Johnny. I might have to go away and come back to you. No, looks like I'm going to have to come back to you again, Johnny. Sorry about that. We'll dig it out there and we'll find it. But it's just nice to get a message there from Nigeria. Very good. Great. And yes, we had one more message just to give a big shout out to before we continue on as well. Really nice feedback and support coming in. Where did it go to? Here it is now again. Yes, Joanne's Berkery phoned in, Mary's daughter, to remind us that today, yesterday, that Mary turned 93. Mary and her daughter very kindly paid a visit to us here. And she very much enjoyed her little tour around the studio and came to the microphone. And you hear, indeed, from time to time, the lovely jingles that we put together, that Mary spoke into the microphone, enjoying very much listening to Radio Maria. So Mary turned 93 years of age yesterday. So every grace and blessing to you, Mary, on your birthday. Congratulations, and many more years of health and life and of listenership to Radio Maria as well. So a big shout out for you today. And lovely indeed that you're such a big fan of the radio, and thanks indeed to your daughter Johannes for getting in touch with us and sending in that reminder to us as well. So very good. If you would like to get in touch, please do. It's very easy to contact us, 089 467 2000 by text and WhatsApp, and you can send us a little voice message on WhatsApp too. We always love to get those because they're full of colour and full of life, and they're a bit more three-dimensional than a text, let's say. So do, if you feel so inspired, to send in one. And if you're a person of multilingual talent, maybe there's an idea. Send in a little voice message in your own native language with a bit of English thrown in, maybe to help us all understand. But it wouldn't be a nice little international flavour to add into our round of jingles there. So thanks a million, Maura, there. So again, if you're outside of Ireland, plus 353 89467 2000. Of course, the different accents are lovely to hear as well. You might be listening in the UK or in the United States or in India, and your English might be as you know. I know the language mightn't be a thing at all, but just to hear what part of the world you're in, Africa maybe somewhere, and send us in a message too as well. We had a few of those during the Mariathon last, which was lovely to hear too. So if you want to give a call, Mary's on the phone downstairs, 014123456, 014123456, and you can email info@radiomaria.ie. And by all means, write to us. Lovely to see the letters and cards still coming in the door to us. Mary will share some of those with you later on. And nice to get another lovely letter from a listener and dear friend in Portlaoise prison again, a different one again now today. So it's lovely that we have listeners tuning into us from our prisons around Ireland, and we hope that's of consolation and support to our brothers and sisters who are guests of the nation, is that what they sometimes describe them, again, who've just fallen foul or maybe fallen victim indeed, but just mindful indeed of our brothers and sisters in prison and their families, and perhaps mindful too of staff and the prison service all involved there. Not an easy task by any means, and definitely not forgetting victims of crime, because indeed when it comes to making reparation or justice, it is the innocent victims of crime that we need to keep foremost perhaps too in our thoughts and prayers. So just mindful of that. That can be a very difficult element or part of that consideration. That again, if I think of my own sins, it's probably better to point the finger back at myself. And if we're thinking in these lines, these terms, let he who's without sin cast the first stone. Isn't that what the scripture teaches us? But again, for those who are innocent victims, if I'm the one who has thrown the stone, or I am the one who's caused the offence, how would I feel if I were at the receiving end of such an offence too? So that's part of reparation, that's part of natural justice, and maybe supernatural justice too, I'm sure. And that whatever it is we can do to seek to make reparation. That's a proper understanding of confession and repentance. Remember Zacchaeus? That's a great story in the scriptures. He wanted to see and was curious to know what Jesus was like. He climbed the tree, and the Lord said, well, Zacchaeus, come down, I'm dining at your house. And they all well knew he was a tax collector and a cheat, and he said, if I've robbed anyone or cheated anyone, I'll pay them back 4 times the amount, and I'll give half my property away to the poor. So talk about a huge act of penance and reparation. Zacchaeus was happy to make up for the hurt and the wound he had caused by defrauding people, perhaps, and cheating them. That's maybe, as I say, a consideration or a part of my sins. Let's always kind of safer to speak in the first person singular, that I have a duty to seek to make up in some way. Curious and maybe interesting too, just to explore that thought a little bit further with you. It's not always that we can make up for the damage we've done. And in schools with children, I'd talk about this with them. If and supposing, say, they had stolen a bar of chocolate and eaten it, well, you can't return the bar of chocolate because you've eaten it, it's gone. Something that's stolen and been used and spent. How then is it possible to make up for that? So I would always try to flip it around and say, well, supposing it was your bar of chocolate that somebody else had stolen, and they came and they said sorry to you, and you were very good and very gracious, and you said, well, yes, I forgive you for stealing my bar of chocolate, and you're forgiven. Well, the person who had stolen it was forgiven. Said, great, nice to be back in relationship with you again, I'm really sorry. Well, the person who is the victim, as I say, has a right to say, well, hang on, any chance I could have another bar of chocolate instead? Can you not make up for it in some little way? Or maybe if you can't do that, find another way of making up for it. So it's sometimes the case that if we have inflicted hurt on others, if I have inflicted hurt on others, and there is reparation due or some kind of recompense or some way of trying to make up for the hurt, and it's just not possible. Supposing I have sinned against someone in some terrible way and they have since died, how am I going to make up in that case? How can I make reparation? And what the church would recommend and what justice would demand, and charity too, is that I would engage in some form of equivalent charitable act in some way. So to support the poor, to give time to those in need, again, to undertake acts of mercy. And this is the whole principle and understanding behind indulgences and the practice of these devotions, for instance, for the Holy Souls. So during the month of the Holy Souls, as we recall, part of the way of getting the indulgence for the Holy Souls was to pray for them, to pray for the Holy Father's intentions, get to confession and receive Holy Communion, but also to visit the cemetery and pray there, and maybe again spend time at some of the graves. Or it's a lovely idea I came across once in a parish where a family adopted a grave, a derelict grave that was just overgrown and unkempt, and sought to just decorate the grave and keep it clean and remember those who had died, and no one left to remember them. That's a very wholesome and holy thought and lovely thing to do. And surely, if the church is reminding us of that by way of indulgence, a way then of making reparation for my sins and perhaps hurts and wounds I've caused to others that I'm unable to otherwise make reparation for. So I hope that makes sense, that the good deeds and the virtuous life that we seek to live all in some way helps to make up for the hurt my sins have caused others, and my faults and my failings and my omissions as well as commissions. So it is just mindful of the victims. It's a good way to keep us penitent and humble and returning to the Lord. The leper there in the Gospel today, he fell prostrate before the Lord, and not just falling on your knees and doing him homage as the wise men did. This was an even wiser man, you might say. fell, prostrate before the Lord. If you want to, you can cure me. Here he is, sort of lying face down in the dirt before the Lord. And of course I want to, the Lord says. So he must have had to bend down to touch him, be cured. And that's the nature of mercy. It's an interesting challenge maybe for us too, if you are, again, maybe speaking the first person, singular, if we are victims, if I am a victim of hurt, meted out, or sin by others, if I've been maltreated, if I've been offended or wounded, word or deed, again, omission against me, that's worth reflecting on too, because that's a painful wound. Ingratitude, disregard, indifference, verbal abuse, any other kind of abuse for that matter too. That hurts, that really deeply wounds. And so if it's the case that I or you, if you find yourself in that position where you're at the receiving end, and perhaps who isn't, that's where the lovely words of the Our Father come into play. To forgive as we have been forgiven. And you know why I'm such a great advocate of confession. That's one of the main reasons, that in the measure that we are forgiven, the measure we recognize the gravity, I recognize the gravity of my sins and the necessity for God's mercy and the benevolence of God's mercy time and time and time again, that hopefully grace will kick in and help me to understand very clearly and very tangibly that in the measure that I have been forgiven and the Lord has so much patience with me, then I surely then am called to have the same measure of mercy, forgiveness and patience with others who have hurt or wounded me, even if it's a grievous wound. Now that's not an easy task. I think humanly, I know, humanly speaking, it's impossible to forgive. Some wounds indeed. We carry them perhaps our whole life long. But by God's grace, nothing is impossible. We hear of these incredible stories of people, for instance, who were imprisoned and tortured in communist countries or during the war, all these things, so badly treated, and yet reaching out to forgive. Some lovely stories told in war-torn countries. I think it's there actually there's a few stories, ask Patricia Keane in her book Journey of 10,000 Smiles, isn't it? Just cataloguing her amazing work in post-war torn Bosnia, Herzegovina and Croatia, and just harrowing stories in that book. But again, stories of mercy, of Muslims and Christians, at odds, and yet coming to help each other in dire circumstances, that overcoming the differences or antagonisms or the different ethnic groups as well, transcending boundaries. Several stories there, extraordinary mercy shown, and we come across these so often. Really is amazing. Prisoners, unjustly imprisoned in horrible circumstances, again like communism or the Second World War, but forgiving their captors, those who would imprison them unjustly. And it's only, and life teaches us that hopefully as we mature in our faith, that it's only in mercy that we can find peace. If we hold on to resentments, if we have the clenched fist, if we just don't let go, then we're the ones who suffer. We're the ones who we tie ourselves up in knots and we turn in on ourselves, and we're bitter and angry and nursing the hurt, having our little pity parties and not growing, not again turning in on ourselves. That's not a healthy path to be on. And the only freedom from that kind of prison, because that's a prison too, is grace, is God's mercy. So it does teach us a lovely lesson. So just coming back around full cycle with that little train of thought, it's why it's such a beautiful thing that we're hearing from those in prison who are joining us here on air and listening in. Thank you for that. Thank you for writing to us. Indeed, if there are any other in prison or families of prisoners, do drop us a line too. And then the challenge then to please God, welcome prisoners back into the community, to help and support them, and to be open and to be very, very slow to judge. In fact, don't judge at all. But to exercise mercy. Wow, that's no small task. No small task at all. That's the stuff of saints. The stuff of saints. And we have a saint today, Saint Raymond of Penafort, or Penafort. He lived in the 13th century, a Dominican friar. This was the early days now of the Dominicans, born in Catalonia, of a family related to the kings of Aragon and the counts of Barcelona, so all in Spain. And Raymond was educated in Barcelona and later at Bologna, where he took doctorates in civil and canon law, and he became Archdeacon of Barcelona. Many of these great saints are kind of founders, or highly gifted intellectually. He joined the Dominican order in 1212, and a lover both of solitude and the apostolate of reconciling heretics, specifically Jews and Moors, Muslims. He was also a notable writer. His two principal works were his Summa, that's like a summary or a gathering of moral cases, and his compilation of the decretals of canon law. Decretals, a decree, laws, so work on law there and on morality. He was commissioned by Pope Gregory IX to do that, who called him to Rome. So for nearly 700 years, this remained the standard collection, his decretals, or decretals, is that the right pronunciation? Anyway, his work on canon law. He was chosen as Archbishop of Tarragona, but refused the charge, and in 1238 then he was elected Master General of the Dominicans in spite of his reluctance, and he did accept it in the end. So obviously a very gifted man. One work which he completed during his generalate as head of the order was the revision of the Dominican constitutions, and another a systematic visitation of the rapidly growing order. And these guys not only, highly intelligent, but, packed with energy, out and about and getting the job done, these amazing saints. After only 2 years, though, it says, he resigned and returned to Spain, from where he encouraged Thomas Aquinas to write his Summa contra gentes. Thomas Aquinas, again, writing against the peoples, or against the heresies at the time. The Moors were very strong and present across Spain at the time. He's often been claimed as the joint founder of the Mercadarian order, whose main work was the redemption of captives from the Moors. The details of the story are suspect, though, and it seems more accurate to attribute to him a less direct responsibility. He died in extreme old age, 95. That's a mighty age in the 13th century. Extraordinary man. So there you are. That's his. He's a saint today. He fades a little bit into the background on account, of course, the Christmas season that continues. He's not remembered perhaps as prominently as otherwise, but no doubt the Dominicans remembering him today, and also in Spain, and no doubt on the national calendar there too. Now, so very good. Let's see here. Do I have a prayer or a music request here? I don't have a music title. I hope Eva is nodding her head there. We have something lined up, certainly too. So we might take a little musical pause and break. I'll come back with a few other little items to share with you. But again, as you know, we love to hear from you. Even if you're watching back or listening back later on, please do text in, please do email in, please do write in to us, or indeed drop a like and a share on our Facebook and YouTube channels too, and a comment. And it's a lovely way of getting in touch with us. 089 467 2000 is the text and WhatsApp number. 089 467 2000. And yes, I see there's a piece of music here. Is it If I Can Help Somebody? Ah, great. Yeah, nice one. We used to sing that in the seminary as well. Call us up 014 123 456 and write to us at St. Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22. So happy birthday, Mary Berkery, If I Can Help Somebody Now, by Harry Seacombe.
can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody he is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian Lord, if I can bring back beauty to a world abroad, if I can spread love's message that the Master taught, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in
My name is Sister Veronica, and I'm a Franciscan sister of the Renewal. I'm so grateful to Radio Maria for giving us that opportunity to every day listen to the Mass and to be a part of the prayer of the Mass.
All right, thanks indeed. A lovely piece of music indeed. My living, if I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. There's a nice idea actually of reparation too. And well, it's the call to the virtuous life. It's the call to sanctity, the call to saintliness. Express it any which way you like, becoming the best version of yourself, New Year's resolutions, all those things. Such is the nature of life following Christ. And really the only way, because a life of selfishness or a life of gain or a life of acquisition, like what is that worth in the end? I mentioned yesterday about the Feast of the Epiphany and how the world has sort of taken that idea of being a star. You're a star. We say it in a pejorative way as well as a, we just, somebody who's a movie star or a pop star. Again, the only star really is Christ. We saw the star rising in the east. But if that's something that we're aspiring to, stardom in the secular sense or the worldly sense, forget about it. Because again, if you've been around any length of time, you turn the page and it's a new star tomorrow. These music shows and talent shows and things. You have the latest rising star, and then they're gone. That's it. It's like an asteroid, burnt out and gone the next day. And they can build monuments in your honor. They can, paintings and all these things. All these things just pass away. They come and they go, and mostly they go. That's the story of the Mother Superior there, the Poor Clares. I think it was in Cork, one of the Poor Clare convents. She was interviewed on the radio once, and a little documentary about vocations, and she was asked, are there many who enter into religious life, into the consecrated life, and sort of who come and see? And she says, yes, they come and they go, but mostly they go. That they don't stay, obviously, a lot. It's quite a discerning path to discern. So most obviously would not stay. Mostly they go. But such is the nature of life, passing away. So, excuse me, sorry about that. If we have ambitions to that kind of worldly acclaim, I like that line of scripture myself. If we work towards, a rich harvest in nature, it will bring. If we sow seeds in nature, I think that's it. Either intellectually or materially, or all these things. It will reap a perishable harvest. Having this chat with some people of late too, there's lots of talk about all the multi-billionaires in the world today, and all kinds of conspiracy theories about the rich and the wealthy taking over the world and control of this and control of that. And I sit kind of scratching my head and bemused by this whole thing. If and supposing there are, and I've no doubt there are, those who would wish to dominate and control and own everything and own us and take over and have all this wealth and so on and so forth. So, good luck. I mean, you can name some of these enormously wealthy individuals, and where is it getting them? To what purpose, to what end? And you can't take any of it with you. And anyway, this is the thing, if and supposing all these conspiracy theories are true, and if and supposing there are those who want to control us all and down and own everything, well, what are they going to spend it on? Where are they going to go with it? What's the point? Was there lovely? There was somebody sent me a story, I forget who the name of the wealthy man was, an African man who had made it great and had achieved great fame and great wealth and great status, and still was unsatisfied, was still looking for something. And so I think he'd just made his name and made his fortune and found, no, there's still something missing. So he decided to invest in things and property and possessions, and still, found that these things even kind of faded after a bit, and said, well, no, where else can I find happiness? And then so he started, I think, kind of investing or growing new companies or some other avenue anyway of pursuit by way of wealth, and, as I say, sowing a material seeds, and still wasn't satisfied. But anyway, one day a friend came to him and said, look, would you mind sponsoring some wheelchairs for these young children who were cripples? They're in these little institutions or orphanages or wherever they were, some poor establishment, and they needed wheelchairs. And so he said, sure, don't bother, here's a few bob for that. It was nothing to him, a small change. And the friend said, well, no, would you actually come and present them? We would love you actually come and see and present them. And when he did, the children were just so grateful. And he was very deeply moved by the whole thing. And it really, really struck him deeply. And one of the little children must have wheeled up to him in one of the chairs and grabbed him around the knee, and said, and the man bent down and said, look, what is it? Is there anything more that I can do for you? And of course he was thinking in material terms. So the little boy says, no, I just want to hold on to you so that I can, and hug you and thank you, so that I can hug and thank you again in heaven. And this just completely shattered his world, the wealthy man. It suddenly dawned on him. He was pursuing all this stuff and things and growth and wealth and fame, and this was the one thing that was absent and missing. The best things in life, they say, are free, aren't they? And that when we discover too that when in giving ourselves away in self-gift with time, talent, treasure, that the more we can give, the more we receive, and the more fulfilled or the more at peace, the more we discover, as it were, truth and goodness and beauty. It's simply an equation of the spiritual life, and it's something that Christ himself, by coming among us as one of us in the flesh and laying down his life for us and living in poverty, shows us, God shows us the way. And mercy, as I was referring to previously, is part of that journey too, where, again, not holding on. It's is it Philippines? Equality with God is a thing not to be grasped, that we can't grasp at, again, goodness, truth and beauty. We can embrace, we can enter into the mystery of it, seek to live it, but we'll never fully grasp it. When we try to grasp, again, isn't that the story of Scrooge at Christmas time, the miser grasping at things, and he discovered in that story, that fable, what it meant, to celebrate Christmas in giving and in the gift. And there is no greater gift than Christ himself. So we think about gift giving and all of that, like the wise men, gold, frankincense and myrrh, when in fact what they received, they came with their dromedaries and their entourage and journeyed from afar and following the star. But what they received in the act of giving homage and seeing Christ the King, they received far more than they gave. So, excuse me again, this is the inequality that is God and God's grace and mercy. And it's such a great lesson for us to have before us and to continue to strive towards living. If I could help somebody. So a very appropriate choice of music there, Mary, and happy birthday to you again as well. So very good. Just a little item from Pope Francis there on the solemnity of the Epiphany. He was chatting yesterday about this. And he calls us to lift our eyes up to heaven like the Magi, raising your eyes to the heavens, to the stars, to listen to the desires in our hearts that now would be not earthly ones, but supernatural ones, grace-filled ones, and to follow the star that God makes shine above us. So we use that terminology in our common day language, I suppose. Again, you're a star, follow your dreams. But again, not something elusive or, or too worldly or material. If it's following the light of truth, I would say. So Pope Francis speaks about the pilgrimage of the Magi going to Bethlehem and what may have motivated them. That they were wise, famous and wealthy, must have been with the gifts they brought, yet they let themselves be unsettled by desiring to find the Christ child. Again, like the rich African man, what am I looking for? What's missing here? They were filled with expectation. They were seekers after God. Wise men, as they say, still seek him. So the spirit of healthy restlessness was born of desire. This is real the Jesuit Pope, I think, speaking here. Spirit of a healthy restlessness. Saying that their secret was the capacity to fuel the fire that burns within us, looking beyond the immediate and the visible. It's really exactly what where I'm pitching it, the conversation today. It means embracing life as a mystery that surpasses us, an ever-present cranny in the wall that beckons us to look into the distance. I see a sort of crack in the wall that we look out and look beyond, since life is not just our here and now, but something far, far greater. So the Pope cited the painter Vincent van Gogh, who described his need for God as so strong as to drive him outside at night to paint the stars. Artists seem to get this intuitively, whether it's musicians or painters or anyone who has a creative mindset, has an imaginative capacity that sort of drives on to the stars again, or just beyond the beyond. Yeah, he noticed as well how we are what we desire, and this desire for God enlarges our gaze. There you go again, that if our desire is limited by worldly success and worldly ambition, it's limited necessarily. It's contained. It cannot be said. Again, like all the billionaires in the world, well, good luck with all of that. Wouldn't they be far better off to give it all away to the poor and help solve some of the grievous problems that beset some of the poorer countries by channeling it entirely into the poor. And, I can point my finger there, but maybe I should point the finger back at me and say, what about me and my resources and what God has blessed me with? Can I do the same? So it's easy to, again, be the hurler on the ditch, as we say. So, as it was for the Magi, the Pope says, so it is for us. The journey of life and faith demands a deep desire and an inner zeal. The Church needs this, that it should animate our journey of life and faith. And it's good that we question how that journey of faith is going and whether our religious practice still warms our hearts and changes our lives. So ask yourself that question. Does my faith and my relationship with the Lord, does it animate and move me and challenge me? Again, afflicting the comfortable. I hope it does. We need to be startled by Jesus and by the explosive and unsettling joy of the gospel. So we recommend a visit to the Christmas crib. We have our lovely crib behind me here, that we reflect on what this means and what it should challenge us. We come to Christ and be moved and shaken a little bit. Faith, if it is to grow, has to begin ever anew. It needs to be sparked by desire to take up the challenge of entering into a living and lively relationship with God. Find that here on the radio. It's certainly doing that for us and all who work here and all who volunteer here. And I do hope for you, as a dear listener and friend, that you are being kind of supported, certainly in your faith, but maybe rattled a bit or pushed or strengthened or encouraged, maybe is a better word. Not unsettled, perhaps, or discommoded, or whatever the other words might be, but just really unsettled enough to move forward in that faith, really. So in fairness to Pope Francis, he really is, he goes a little deeper for us, and it sounds very Jesuitical, if that's again a fair adjective. So the Pope noted how the Magi, in defying Herod by not returning him to tell him where they found the Christ child, for their part, the Magi then had been unsettled and changed, and it demonstrated for them great courage and prophetic faith, unafraid to challenge worldly power and evil too. There's our task. So we lift up our eyes, listen to the desire in our hearts, follow the star that God makes shine above us, and as restless seekers remain open to God's surprises. Let us dream in a good way, not dreamer, dreamy type stuff. Let us seek and let us adore. Lovely words from Pope Francis there. Very good. My time is gone. As always, it flies past. So thanks a million for getting in touch. Thanks to everybody who's joining me on Facebook here as well. Where is the lovely little message there that was sent through? Yes, who's watching on Facebook? Selma is there. Vincent, Caroline too. Henry and Dobry are all tuning in on Facebook. Thank you for being with us today. Just coming up to 12 o'clock. Please stay with us as well. We'll turn off the camera now, but we'll stay live, of course, and pray with you, our Angelus and Midday Prayer.